you manage the workflow in release management. You can do this, and this is done in footprints, for example, using the feature of master and subtasks. So when something comes in as maybe a new enhancement request, we put it in the queue, and then the release manager looks at it and says, is this something that needs to be done as a one-off development effort, or can we bundle it in the next release of that product? And so if it can be bundled, then what you do is you attach that enhancement request as a subtask to the master. And then the master, of course, is the next release of that product. So the master subtask works really well in the tools to be able to help manage and simplify the release management process. And the last thing is, again, this is an internal IT process, and maybe not exclusively. There certainly are approvals that would be needed at various junctures of your development process, especially if you're an agile development shop and you have to show what you're doing to the customer at various points. But so there might be user acceptance or UAT approvals needed. But other than that, this is an internal process on the right side of that graphic I showed you earlier. Just to kind of gloss through some of the others, problem management. Problem management is something that a lot of people, even SMBs, implement right out of the box. I don't know that they always have the resources available to do that, but I will tell you it's very simple to do. It's usually a simple form. You don't need a lot of, for example, you don't need service level agreements around problems. You don't need surveys for problems. In a lot of cases, you don't even need more than 2 priorities. Is it normal priority or high priority? So there's a lot of simplification you can do when you set up a problem management. So from the form that you fill out and tracking each problem, it can be very simple. But it's not always the first thing that you should go out and implement if you're a small, medium business. And part of that is because problem management is already done by a lot of people that are doing incident management, and they're kind of overlapping doing some of the root cause analysis, which is done in problem management already. But I do like it as a separate process, and if you have the resources to do it, I do recommend creating a problem management process, and of course doing that in its own workflow. Configuration management, and of course this goes hand in glove with the configuration management database. The configuration management database is where we keep all the configuration items, or CIs. I will tell you that that's bigger than a bread basket, bigger than a bread box, I guess is the right term. It needs time and resources to do it properly. So it's probably not the first thing that you want to implement if you're an SMB. You want to, but when you do implement it, you want to maybe simplify the number of relationships that you have. The last one on the list is project management. Again, it's not an official ITIL process, but it certainly allows you to manage projects in their own workflow rather than in the service desk. And then you can also integrate it, if you're doing it in Footprints or Remedy-Force, you can integrate it with a project management project plan software, such as Microsoft Project. And that integration works really, really well. Now, I'm looking at time. I've got 20 minutes till, so I need to talk about resources. So I'm trying to get through these rather quickly. Some of these are in the form of questions. So if I'm looking at the implementation of maybe a service desk or some of these ITIL processes for a small, medium, or mid-sized business, first thing I want to know is, does ITIL have executive backing? Anybody that knows ITIL will know that ITIL will not be successful unless it has the support and backing of the IT executives. So does it have backing of the IT executives? You also need, certainly if it's an implementation, you need to assign a project manager to that just for ownership, to make sure that the overall initiative has somebody leading it and owning it. The same goes for each and every process. Every single ITIL process that you implement or use needs an owner. So if you have change management, you need a change manager. That's not a full-time job, certainly in an SMB, but it's somebody that wears the hat as the change manager. You even need an incident manager, somebody that goes in and says, what can we do to improve the way we handle incidents? Because continual service improvement is certainly part of each and every process. So assign an owner or a manager to each ITIL process. And this is kind of a big one. If you really want to simplify your resources, well, set up automations in the tool, such as Footprints or Remedy Force or Remedy, and let the tool do the work for you. So if you can automate things and have simplified selections and categorizations and such in a tool, use that. So one of the ways you can reduce the workload on your resources, the people resources, is utilize the tools, the features in the tools. Other ways that you can simplify resources for ITIL is to maybe consider outsourcing or hosting. Use somebody else's people, in other words, or use contractors if you're going to implement. Obviously, RightStar would love to come in and help you implement any of these BMC products, or if you just want to do an assessment and say, how are we doing compared to the average, the general public, so to speak, we can come in and assess how you're utilizing the tool and your processes. So consider outsourcing, hosting, and contractors. Some of the mundane things that you do, and I mentioned that CMDB, setting up the CMDB, is pretty resource intensive. So I've seen accounts that use temps or contractors, or even, let's see, what do you call them? I forget the term, but the people that are there during summer out of college, interns, thank you. So even interns can be used to do some of the mundane things, such as clean up the data that you're going to import into your CMDB. So consider those things to help augment the limited resources you have. The third item, consider what other major projects are planned and at the same time. So if you're doing this as a project, you certainly want to consider your resources in light of what other things will contend for their time. And then, are there outside forces driving ITIL implementation timeframes? In other words, is there something regulatory that may be an audit or something that forces you to get change management or release management done before the end of the quarter? Or maybe is there a budget restraint that says you have to get this done now or you can't do this until later? So those are things that have an impact upon resources. So if you're trying to simplify the resources aspect, you need to look at these items. All right. So we talked a little bit about ITIL goals for the SMB, not vastly different than ITIL goals in general. We talked about the ITIL processes. Probably the big thing is limiting what processes and where to start, and what you can do at a high level to simplify some of those processes, and then a little bit about resources. So here's our overall simplification summary. So when it comes to goals, you want the right services at the right cost with consistent execution, and consistent execution probably is the key there. Number two, simplify the number of processes. Yes, start small. I suggested 4 right off the bat, and then add others as required or as you have resources to implement them. Number 3, simplify those processes, create consistent processes, and create processes that have a logical separation of workflow. So that's probably the big thing here, is separating the workflow of those processes. And then number 4, simplify resources. You can do that by assigning owners to the processes, and then, of course, letting the tool do a lot of the work for you by automating.